This week on Morning Mika, sake bombs.
Well, I can confirm that the President of the United States does not spend his time tweeting conspiracy theories. He spends his time working on behalf of the American people.
Oh boy, when it comes to managing the message, Jen Psaki doesn't mess around. As press secretary, she turned the White House daily briefing into viral viewing. And now she's doing the same thing from the anchor chair with her own hit show on MSNBC. It has been a wild ride from the campaign trail to the Oval Office. And today, Jen is breaking down the key lessons she has learned along the way, whether it's communicating with politicians or preschoolers. After all, it's tough to tell the difference sometimes. I'm Mika Brzezinski here with Simone Sanders Townsend, Huma Abedin, and Jen Psaki. And guess what we're doing, guys, this week? We're showing our range. Last week, it was dead dogs and live chickens. And this week, that's right. And this week, it's all about say more. Lessons from work, the White House, and the world. That's, of course, Jen Psaki's new book, and it's amazing. Over the course of her career,
Thank you.
Jen was a spokesperson for the State Department, White House communications director for then President Obama, and ultimately the first White House press secretary for President Joe Biden before stepping down in 2022. These days, you can catch the mom of two hosting Inside with Jen Psaki on MSNBC, where she offers words of wisdom to viewers and would-be felons alike.
If you're planning on taking part in a criminal conspiracy, I would definitely suggest not taking handwritten notes outlining the entire plan. But that seems to be exactly what happened.
But before we dive into the book, Jen, just congratulations from all of us. We love you.
All of you, and for all of your support, all three of you. I appreciate it so much.
We are your biggest fans and supporters, but the book's amazing and it's really helpful to a lot of people. I just want to start with explain a sake bomb for those that don't know.
I didn't coin this term, first of all. I'm very honored by it. It is like a drink that you can have at a restaurant. I'll start there.
Oh.
But a sake bomb, it's true, Mika. We'll get one the next time the four of us all get together.
I'm in.
I think what it means is when I would shut someone down in the briefing because it was disinfo, it was inaccurate, or we were just the end of our line of questioning. Now, my sisters, because, you know, we all have siblings, and siblings are the best, and they make fun of you, got sake bomb sweatshirts that they sometimes would wear on family Zooms just to poke fun at me, but I think that's the meaning.
That's adorable. Those nice sisters. Okay, so this is your first book, and it's not a memoir or a White House tell-all. It's your guide to communication. Something you say you wished you had when you were in your 20s. Tell us why.
You know, I think we've all experienced times where we made mistakes, where we wish we would have done things differently, where we even hit a certain age in our lives. For me, it was 40 for whatever reason. When you just start learning things you wish you would have known earlier. And I realized that there's a lot. Over the course of 20 years, I've learned things like how to give feedback to different kinds of bosses, what to do when you make a mistake, how to push back and fight back bullies. And I mean, like the Kremlin and Putin, but it doesn't have to be them. It can be others. How to prepare to speak publicly. And as I was thinking about what kind of a book I wanted to do, I realized I wanted it to be something that would be full of advice I'd give my kids when they're old enough, but also that I wish I would have had when I was in my 20s.
Well, Psaki, I have to tell you, I wish I had this book in 1996 when I walked into the White House and had absolutely no idea what I was doing, like operating along the lines of a fake it till you make it attitude, until one of my mentors in the White House told me, if you fail to plan, then plan to fail. And I think there's so much in this book that seems like it's basic advice in how to operate in the world. You've just done it at the highest levels of scrutiny and intensity. And one of the things that you say early in the book, which I love, is that we have come into a world where it's monologuing more and dialoguing less. And it really does feel like where basic communication is evaporating in today's political climate. Why do you think that is?
I think social media is a part of it. Social media has a lot of good aspects too. So does all of the technology we all use, right? I mean, how would we FaceTime with grandparents or cousins or others who don't live near us? But it is much easier to be a bully and a warrior online than it is to have that conversation in person. And I think especially for people who are even younger than Simone, it's become, through COVID, through just the rise of social media platforms, the way so many young people communicate. That's okay, but it also has meant people have lost the art of being able to communicate in person. And I'm still a believer, maybe it's old school, that that's where some of the best conversations happen.
I concur. The best conversations do happen in person, and that's where you learn things. I love the book. I love the cover, very glam. The book is currently in my bookshelf.
Thank you,
at home. Yes, we love the cover, honey. We just sitting. We love it. So in this book, you also write about the 3 questions that you were asked the most during your time at the White House. Please, Jen, tell the people what the questions were and what the answers are to the questions.
Oh, my God. Okay. One of them is, what's Joe Biden like? And we all know this a little bit, right? But the thing about Joe Biden, yes, he's the president of the United States and the leader of the free world. But I felt after I'd been even working for him for just a couple of weeks, and I think I said this to him, actually, which I prefaced by saying, this is a weird thing to say to a president, which anytime that comes out of your mouth, you know, like, where am I going with this? But I said, I feel like I've known you a long time. Because he's somebody who has such empathy, which we've seen, and such humanity, and is so connected to his family and to the families of all of the people who work for him. I just adore him as a human being, and I didn't know that that would be part of my experience. You know, he's also, I think, a lot tougher in a good way, and a lot more disciplined, I would say, in terms of how he handles difficult things like negotiations around the world and with Congress than I think people give him credit for. And I saw a lot of that. The second question people always ask me is like, what's Peter Doocy actually like, right? And first of all, he's very tall. I say that I'm 5'3". He's a giant person. But 2, we had our back and forth in the briefing room. But he was always professional when he came to see me and wanted to talk about issues. He loves his wife. He's a father. I tried the best I could to see him as a human being. There is a performative aspect to the briefing room. We can critique that. I think it's kind of a problem, but I actually don't dislike Peter Doocy at all. And now I'm totally forgetting the 3rd question in my own book, and it may be because it's my second day of my book tour.
We'll have to read it.
Exactly.
This is a teaser. It's a teaser. People
That's
gotta
right.
Tune into
I'll
the
come
book.
back on social media with the 3rd question. It may be like, did I like the briefing? And I loved it. So I'm going to answer that.
Jen, there's so much wisdom that you pass along in this book that is universal. And by the way, I love the pictures in the book. I had no idea Peter Doocy was that tall until I saw those pictures. And there's so much that you reveal in it. The fact that, you know, every time I watched you on TV, you seemed fearless. And there's a line in your book where you write that the fear was exhausting, which, you know, people should really delve into that chapter. But whether you're talking to reporters or the president or your children, and trust me, I can relate, you have to tell us who was easier to handle. Was it the White House press corps or your children?
Depended on the day, but children are humbling, as we all know. And I do tell a story in this book about when President Biden asked me to come back or come work for him, obviously a huge honor, dream job. And I wanted to explain it to my then 5-year-old daughter. And we're all kind of nerdy preppers here. I wrote out what I was going to say. I wanted it to be a moment where I could teach her about patriotism and sacrifice. That's how I conveyed it to her. This nice man who just won the presidency asked me to come back and work for him. It means I'll have more time away, but it's a sacrifice, and that means you're sacrificing too. And I thought to myself, I am such a killer mother. I just explained to her patriotism. And I said, does that make sense? And she said, no. So we all have moments like that. And certainly that may have been more challenging. One other thing, and Huma, you just made me think of this, and because I think of all of you, sometimes I run into the 3 of you and I think, oh my God, they have it together. They're so impressive. I mean, all 3 of you. And I wanted to expose that for people who people see on TV, at briefings, on television, anchoring shows, just being a badass that Huma is and has been for so many years. I remember the first time I saw you, Huma, at an event, and I was like, she's so together. Oh, my God. But we all are imperfect, and we all have moments where we make mistakes and we mess up. And it's been a long journey, I think, for all of us to get here. And that's what I want. I hope people who read this who are earlier in their careers than all of us take away too.
It's such an important lesson because it's a long journey. The journey is also about building bridges, and as a young person, I think that is something that a lot of younger people, especially whether they are in politics or business, anywhere, that it's an art that I think has been lost a little bit given the lack of communication in person. And in the book, you talk about building bridges with the press, with people you disagree with, and the other party, or even with family members. So what is your key to really doing that, to building that bridge?
I mean, for me, the keys there's two keys. One is kind of lower the barrier for entry to people. And what I mean by that is there was a right-wing podcast host who attacked me. I mean, he's one of many, attacked me several months ago, and by name, right? I ran into him at a conference a couple of weeks later, and I said, "Hey, how are you? It's good to see you. How are your kids?" And it was like so disarming, right? That I think it reduced the tension. Now that, it takes a little bit of swallowing your pride in a moment like that. But I do think that this is why having conversations in person are so important. The second piece, and I learned this from a lot of people, including Barack Obama, is listening. Listening is part of communicating. And I learned this from watching him, of course, when he was running for Senate, but also when he was running for president and I was working for him. And he would go into the whitest, most rural part of Iowa, where there are a bunch of farmers at a town hall meeting, and he would sit down, he would listen to people and hear their stories. And there were times where he would interject, like, "Oh, I understand that. My mother struggled with healthcare. Oh, yeah, I get that. My kids are in elementary school, too." And the listening and making people feel heard is part of how you can connect and build a bridge.
I'm bringing up the working mom aspect of this because I think in this case it's a really glaring example of being encumbered at every level of your life. I mean, all working moms are, but you were damn good at the podium. Damn good, damn prepared. And you're a mother of 2 kids along the way, which is just unbelievably stressful as it is, whether you're working any other job. But this one specifically had, enormously long hours. And as you said, the fear was exhausting in terms of being able to do the job, getting it right, going out and doing that briefing every day. And I'm just curious, I want to go back to 2015, when you were actually asked to take the job as White House Communications Director. You were pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
And you talk in the book about an important lesson that you learned about limiting yourself. Tell us about it.
I mean, what I learned in that moment is that sometimes we are our own limiters. I think that's a word. We limit ourselves. In that, Dennis McDonough, who was the chief of staff at the time, called me and said, Jennifer Palmieri, who we all know well, was going back to work on Secretary Clinton's amazing campaign, and she's leaving. We need you to come in and be the communications director, which is, of course, a huge job, a huge honor. And in the 15 seconds as he's talking, I thought to myself, he doesn't know I'm pregnant. I'm going to tell him I'm pregnant. And then he's going to say, "Good luck. We'll see you soon." As in, we're going to move on to someone else. I said to him, I haven't told a lot of people this, but I'm 5 months pregnant or 4 months pregnant, whatever it may have been. And I just want to, thank you for reaching out. And he said, "Well, that's great. That's so exciting. We'll figure that out. Just promise me you'll think about it, and I'll call you tomorrow." And in the moment, what it made clear to me is I had to make the choice about whether I, as a person who was having my first child, could do this job, but also that I was limiting myself and projecting that onto other people. And when I started at the White House, first of all, the President Obama, and even if I hadn't done the job, I said I'd always remember this, called me the next day or 2 days later and said, "I only have a minute because the king is in my office," as in the King of Jordan. So, but he said to me, "Look, having kids is the greatest thing that will ever happen to you. We'll figure this out. Don't worry about it. I just need you to come back and do it. And whatever you need, we'll figure it out." Now, I'm blessed to have worked for 2 presidents who that was their approach. I have no doubt Secretary Clinton, that would have been her approach, too. So we're fortunate in that sense. Everyone is not like that. But I learned a lot about not limiting myself.
You know, Jen, I can relate I remember being 7 months pregnant and having, working at the State Department for, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and people saying, well, can you go on this trip to Libya and Afghanistan? And I walk into Hillary's office and say, some people are asking whether I should go on this trip. And she said, well, what does your doctor say? Yeah. I call my doctor, and my doctor says, what do they think? You're a porcelain doll? Of course you can travel. And I went and sort of working, and that was under President Obama's administration, but I certainly felt that support. And, I did find in the book so interesting how, you talk about Mike McCurry being one of your models when you were learning prepping rather on how to be White House press secretary, that you had both men and women supporting you on your journey. I certainly feel that in this what are we? What are a quartet of women here feeling that love and support. But we are also in an election year. You are a rock star on your show. So as someone who's worked, putting on your other hat, worked in the White House, worked on presidential campaigns, what do you think the election is going to hinge upon this year?
Oh, my God, I want to ask this back on all of you, too. Well, one, I would say, and I've been thinking about this a lot, at this point in past election cycles, there had not yet been a financial crisis. COVID was still taking shape. I think George Floyd was still alive, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg was still alive. So I hate to tell people this, but a lot's going to happen over the next 6 months. I do think the piece that is underestimated, and the four of us have talked about this before, is abortion access and abortion rights. And as I've been watching the trial and hearing the reporting on Stormy Daniels and others, what I keep thinking about is Trump is a man who's trying to prevent women from making choices about their own body, and also he's disrespecting women, literally individual women, about their own bodies. And when people say that doesn't matter, I just think, why are we projecting that onto people? It may matter, right? And women care about these things. So I almost think that is the underestimated issue at this point, but I think it will hinge on a lot, honestly.
It will. I agree. I mean, it's abortion. There's a lot. These are unconventional times where conventional wisdom doesn't always apply. I mean, Donald Trump is literally in court daily, and despite that court case, his other legal troubles, the polls are basically tied. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. What message do you think Republicans, in that sense, are delivering well, given that their top guy is literally sitting in a courtroom, versus what message the Democrats aren't?
You know, Simone, I think that there just needs to be more of the message of I'm the person fighting for you, and he is fighting for himself. And one, that has the benefit of being true. But there are issues like tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, which people may think, oh, that's old school. We're not even in that era of debate anymore because there's so many other things. That may be true. There are trials. There's a lot going on with Trump, obviously. But that is still an issue people care deeply about. And I do think there can be more on those type of issues that can connect with people who maybe they've tuned out the criminal trials. It just feels like a lot. Or they're just only getting a sliver of information. So I don't know. I think the contrast on who Biden is fighting for, who he cares about, versus who Trump cares about, which is himself, that there can be more of that.
So as we wrap, I'm curious because knowing this book, I want you to explain who this book is for, who you hope will read this book, what you hope readers will take away from it, because as one of the greatest communicators, honestly, of our time, of our generation, and that's you. That's what I think of you, and that is what I saw in the White House press briefings. I was blown away. As I told you on Morning Joe, I was like, I didn't see it. When you got the job, I was like, okay, all right, we're going to see how that goes. I'm kind of nervous for her.
I love Mika's direct
you blew us
talk,
away.
And it's great. It's the best.
No, you blew us away. I'm going to say, usually I can see it right away in someone. You came out of the box from nowhere, and you became one of the best press. I mean, I've never seen anyone manage a room better than you. So tell me what you hope, or who you hope, will read this book and take away from it. Because for me, it's about communicating effectively and getting value back in any relationship, whether it's a room or a person?
That's exactly right. And one, thank you, Mika. And I think I speak for all three of us when I say you have been one of those women who has advised all of us, guided all of us, not been a person who has risen to the point you've risen and pulled up the ladder. So thank you to you, too. And I felt that since the moment I started here. I would say, just to echo what you said, because you're a very good communicator, all of you are, is this book is really for anyone in their life who wants to be a better communicator. And it is a reminder that we all have the capability to do that. And it's not just people who speak from a podium or host a show. It's about how you talk to your kids, how you talk to your spouse, how you talk to people you work with, how you navigate different kinds of bosses. And the people I hope buy this, frankly, it's graduation season. It's also Mother's Day. I hope people buy it for their mom. I hope they buy it for their daughter. I hope people buy it for their graduate. Because, again, I think for all of us who've gone through journeys, this is stuff I wish I would have known when I was kind of walking across and getting my diploma just a few years ago.
I love it. Simone Sanders Townsend, Huma Abedin, Jen Psaki, the team. Thank you all. The new book is Say More, Lessons from Work, the White House, and the World. Be sure to follow Simone, Huma, and Jen on social media for all the latest on their shows and what's going on in their lives. And I think we need to get Simone a pet. I'm trying to remember. Yes, it is. Maybe. I don't think she wanted the chicken that I tried.
Maybe
I
a
need
pig.
a chicken or a
listen.
pig.
I
I can
have
put
a
in my purse.
fabulous pig, but she's big. I'll get the latest pictures for you all. It's bad. She's really big. This month, Jen will be hitting the road for her book tour, making stops in New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Los Angeles, San Diego, Chicago, and more. She's going to be a tad busy. You can get all the details about her book tour by searching for Jen's name at simonandschuster.com. And finally, nomination deadline for Forbes and Know Your Value's 4th annual 50 over 50 U.S. list, fast approaching, May 30th, guys. So if you know a woman who has proven success has no age limit, we want to hear from you. Visit Forbes.com and know your value for all the details. And obviously, you can nominate yourself. Obviously, that should be option 1. And that does it for Morning Mika. We'll see you again on YouTube and Peacock.